Hi guys, welcome back to In Case of Econ Struggles. Today we're talking about the new Keynesian ISLM. We're just starting to get into it. We're not really going super deep into what's happening. We are trying to replicate old Keynesian ISLM. We think old Keynesian ISLM is pretty good, has a lot of useful implications. It's really easy to analyze policies with that ISLM graph. But the issue in old Keynesian ISLM is that it's not really based upon micro foundations. The new Keynesian ISLM is based on micro foundations. We tend to describe the new Keynesian ISLM model with three equations, tend to have an expectations augmented Phillips curve. We have a new Keynesian IS curve, and we have some sort of interest rate rule or central bank loss function. We'll talk about what each of those mean on their own in their own separate videos. We're going to keep it really high level here. Graphically, though, it's going to look the same as old Keynesian ISLM, which is good because, again, we're trying to replicate that old Keynesian ISLM, just using micro foundations to really emphasize that, hey, this makes a lot of sense. Even though those guys before didn't use utility maximization or profit maximization, we can get to the same results. We can have similar implications if we do go for those micro foundations. Here's an old Keynesian ISLM graph, just so we see what we're trying to replicate. If we've got some sort of demand shock, our IS curve will shift out. We go from orange dot to that light orange dot, that short run equilibrium. And in the long run, those prices will go up and we will return to the natural rate of output on that full employment line. On that red dot, that's our long run equilibrium. Now that's what we're trying to replicate. So graphically, again, that's going to look the same. So if you're just asked to draw a graph of a new Keynesian ISLM, you know old Keynesian ISLM, perfect, go for it. Again, that old Keynesian, no micro basis, and some aspects of reality are kind of lacking from old Keynesian ISLM. For example, in old Keynesian ISLM, we assume that the prices can jump. So you could be in the middle of filling your car at a gas station. It's $3 a gallon, and then halfway through, you find out that the price per gas jumped to $3.50. And we say, well, in reality, that doesn't really happen. Prices are sort of sticky, or they persist, or they don't adjust as fast as the old Keynesians think. It's not instant. And we also don't have persistence in consumption. There are some other issues in terms of how quickly the economy responds. Old Keynesians tend to think it happens really fast, whereas new Keynesians say, hey, wait a minute, that process tends to be kind of slow. Now, what are the common elements? Well, we have that new Keynesian IS curve, which comes from a utility function, tends to have habit persistence in it. All habit persistence means that my utility today is based not only on my consumption today, but my consumption yesterday. We have an expectations augmented Phillips curve, which means that the inflation level today is some function of the output gap, which we call little y, some error in my inflation from last period, and my expected value of the inflation tomorrow. This comes from what are called sticky prices. So there may be some menu cost pricing, there may be a Calvo model pricing or Taylor model pricing. Each of those, again, we're talking about in separate videos, so feel free to check those out if you are interested in those. We also have an interest rate rule or a central bank loss function. That's what we say closes the model. We need some sort of behavior for the central bank. And that rule that we highlight right there could be about the real interest rate or the nominal interest rate. And out of this model, we also have a real rigidity equation. Again, all of these things we're going to talk about in separate models. This is really a great preview for some of the other stuff upcoming on my channel. We also have a Taylor principle. Taylor principle says that the central bank could have an interest rate rule. It could be about R, it could be about I. All this means is if this is our rule, this is the interest rate rule where we have some values phi pi and phi y, where y is the output gap or the difference between the output today and the target. And pi t minus pi bar is the distance from inflation to the inflation target. All this means is that if inflation today is above what the central bank wants inflation to be, then the real interest rate is going to go up. If we have a positive output gap, the interest rate is also going to go up. And because the real interest rate is equal to the nominal interest rate minus pi, maybe I'll write that down. We know that RT is just equal to IT minus pi t. That means that if inflation is high, you need to jack up the nominal interest rate more than just a one-to-one match with inflation so that you can assume that the real interest rate actually does go up. Hopefully this gives you a brief overview of new Keynesian ISLM. It gives you a great preview of some of the other videos coming to the channel. If there's something in there that you would like to see, make sure to comment below. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time for another case of Econ Struggles.